should coordinate with Bill because from what I hear, and I'm not present for this. I spent the last 40 some odd minutes riding around in circles on my motorcycle. Apparently, a bunch of senators are trying to burn down USG.
What do you mean?
Like it's a street fight.
I heard that it got really heated last meeting.
Oh, then it's heated right now. So, yeah, they're fighting over funding towards stuff.
I will. I'm sure he'll tell me momentarily as soon as I get back.
All right, Council meeting order. Thank you, wonderful people, for being here on a very nice day, February, which we don't get that very often. So sorry to have it indoors with my ugly face.
And Brandon.
You want me to include your face too?
No.
Okay. I'm gonna get a motion to approve the agenda minute from last week. It should be a link that was sent to you earlier today, but it's also on our website. Can I get a motion from somebody?
Motion.
Get a second, unless there's any questions. Though. Second, all in favor? Awesome. You go on then to our old business. Quickly glass over a slight committee on USG grievances. Just that it's actually currently on process, and therefore, if someone approaches you, unless you are Diana, Clay, or someone from USG, just defer any questions that anyone may have to them, even if they're administration, even if they're your professor, direct them to Clay or Diane. Don't direct them to us, because we, especially up here, cannot be a part of that process due to bias. Any questions on that? Hopefully we'll have an update and it'll be taken off soon. And that will be that. Next, Sanctuary Campus letter update. You sure with Audrey, or
I don't know what you got to do.
what's the question? Sorry. The Sanctuary Campus letter update is what you see, right?
Yeah, but we sent it around.
Did you send it the whole letter?
Yeah.
You're going to get a chance to look at the our subcommittee's response to the Chancellor's statement on the Sanctuary Campus letter.
No, he said the international.
Yeah, so it's the Sanctuary letter, yeah.
No.
Okay.
Can I just bring it up on the big screen? I mean, I could go print out a copy of it. Basically, it's the same language that we use in the international letter, requesting that the administration consider, apart from the request to become sanctuary campus, the recommendations outlined below. The recommendations were clarified to bring them in compliance with the law, basically. So none of these, none of the recommendations, once clarified, violate or ask the institution to violate the law, nor do they ask the institution to engage in any actions that are outside of or that are beyond the limits of its authority as an institution. This would have been a little bit easier if it had gone out, but same language, clarified the language, and it's basically asking the administration to consider, apart from the request to be sanctuary, the recommendations made in the previous letters, which were then clarified to eliminate any ambiguity and any question as to whether or not we're asking the university to violate state or federal laws. So that's that.
We'll get a copy of that. We apologize that we first sent it to the executive committee and with our approval and send it out to you, just like we had done prior, to be consistent. But you get a copy of that, I guess, before we send it out. Yeah. I do believe, though, you did get a copy of the statement that the executive board sent out on the executive order. We don't like doing that, but at our executive committee meeting, the International Student Council president actually asked us that his constituents felt as though the chancellor's statement didn't provide much support, that they still felt very topsy-turvy, not really knowing what to do, and nothing concrete was communicated to them. And then so we took upon ourselves and went through and unanimously decided to present that statement out to the public. Does anyone have any issue with that statement at all? I mean, feel free if you do or don't. It's just kind of there. In my mind, from what we've talked about in the past, I didn't foresee it being controversial anyway. I just figured, the status of it and where it's at. I don't think this one will pick up as much traction as the other statements that did over Christmas break, because there's so much other fun stuff going on in the news. And that's that. New business, which was what we just talked about. Item B, graduate council representative election. So at this time, we'll open the floor for nominations for a new, for people who want to be a grad council representative for the remaining of the semester. See any nominations by anyone? I'll nominate Sarah. Anyone else? Is it just no one just sitting on the couch wishing to go to grad council on Thursday?
So much fun.
So, in the event that it is unopposed, what we now need to do is, instead of vote, was a vote of confidence. So we actually vote of confidence rather than just a yes or no vote is a majority, but we need a 2/3 majority. So we can do it with private, we can do it paper or verbal. Sarah in the room, out of the room.
I think it's pretty safe to say that no one else wants to do it. And that
So,
they're just gonna-
given that, if that's any indication, I'll just move to all in favor of supporting Sarah and being the replacement grad council representative. Do so by raising your hand. All those opposed? All right. Congratulate Sarah and thank her for picking that up. Do a wonderful job.
Unanimous vote.
Unanimous. Oh, yeah, for the record, she voted unanimously to replace and for the end of the semester.
I was sending to Dean Leahy or Tomas.
Did you have the resolution? No.
God, no, I have had no, I'll get to that in my report.
Okay.
Where we at?
We are at your report. So we now have officer and committee reports, starting with John.
So, I have 3 pages for you this time instead of the 4 that was last time. All right, Graduate Council. During his report to Graduate Council, Chancellor Caldwell indicated that the position of the administration on the executive order addressed in GPSC's most recent statement was that the legal interpretations of the order were fluid. As such, the administration is communicating the message that, and I quote, "We're here and we're in support until there's some meat on the bone, so to speak." That is, we might interpret this as the administration adopting a wait-and-see position before making any kind of concrete promises to its international student population beyond support. Chancellor Caldwell added that, and I quote, "We do want to be careful that it doesn't become overly political to individual students," end quote. While I did not clarify this statement, Caldwell did indicate that the institution is following in the steps of other institutions by signing national letters of support. Dr. Carver over at the Center for International Studies is taking the lead. However, as indicated at today's graduate enrollment and recruitment task force meeting, Dr. Carver anticipates losing all student enrollment from the affected countries, specifically Iran, as the timelines for visa application will exceed the timelines for admission due to the current situation. This concern was also raised by Provost Ford at Graduate Council, as she pointed out that while the institution is moving forwards with all applications in the same way that it has been, the new changes to immigration policies will extend visa application timelines, which will prevent some students from viewing SIU as a valid choice. Further, Provost Ford added that the changes to the H-1 visa process would become more difficult for recent international graduates. This would also affect graduate students who seek internships through their programs. Provost Ford noted that they are prevented by law from asking a faculty member's visa or immigration status. In her report, Provost Ford indicated that the situation among the international graduate students is much more dire than was previously reported. She states, and I quote, "They are understandably panicked. They don't know if somebody's going to show up at the door and ask them to leave," end quote. In her experience, quote, "all of them are distracted or upset," and she asked that the graduate faculty be more lenient with regards to the performance of international students in their studies and work duties. Outside of her concerns for international students, Provost Ford stated that the institution is conducting a search for Jim Allen's replacement. The delay in the search came due to the fact that the committee could not be charged until spring. They intend to hold 2 days of interviews and will hold open forums with the candidates. Jim Allen's position was Associate Provost for Academic Programs and was one of the ways in which Provost Ford and the institution communicated directly with the IBHE. Last GPSC meeting, I indicated that I would request some clarification from Provost Ford concerning travel funding. Travel on state funds is still frozen. Some colleges have available funds to give to their students, and the graduate school will match that department funding up to $50. She did indicate that the College of Liberal Arts has no money or no travel money to give to anyone. As a result, COLA students are ineligible for the matching funds from the graduate school. Anecdotally, this is likely why a large number of COLA students are reaching out to GPSC for funding. Dean Lee's report reinforced what we already know. Graduate student enrollment is down 200 students to 2,963, which is the lowest it's been in over a decade, which is to say that we lost 200 graduate students compared to last year this time. Additionally, this number is down 200 graduate students from last semester. Graduating graduate students do not count towards this or towards numerical reductions. It is only a count of enrolled and returning students. Additionally, Dean Lee worked with the Dean's Council and Jim Garvey to generate a faculty mentorship award, which would be offered to the best faculty mentor. So the problem with this is that while he tasked each college with recommending the best faculty mentor, no such request was made of the graduate student body. Further, he left it up to the deans of the respective colleges to determine their criteria for selection. Essentially, a given dean does not need to ask the graduate students in their college for their ratings. That being said, Dean Lee is asking the deans to submit their name by the 24th. This is hilarious. Dr. Komaraju, Dean of COLA, spent the majority of her Dean's Council report blaming the graduate student instructors for delay in submitting over 650 grades. Dean Komaraju suggested that there would be additional accountability measures to force GAs to turn in their grades on time, indicating that her own practice of keeping a GA in her office and watching them submit grades to ensure that they were turned in on time. Moreover, she also made the recommendation that additional training for grade submission might offset the issue, though she did not acknowledge the possibility of faculty submitting their grades late. That aside, Dr. Komaraju also confirmed the release of graduate assistant funding and indicated that they were given permission to admit incoming graduate students, if any, on 9-month contracts. She further added that the institutional suggestion that departments give preference to 50% appointments over 25% appointments remains in place, but did not elaborate on the process of appointment. Finally, Dr. Komaraju indicated that the Dean's Council, quote, discussed the importance of talking about classroom bias in the presentation of course materials as well as issues of diversity in the classroom, end quote, but did not elaborate on the conversation. She also indicated without prompting that instructors should not be changing their syllabus without signed documentation, though she did not elaborate on what signed documentation means, and further explained that her position is that the syllabus is not a legally binding document, but a set of expectations that the students are presented with when they enter class. She used this point to reinforce her position that we should not change these expectations frivolously. That being said, I had the opportunity to attend 2 other notable meetings, the Executive Committee of the Faculty Senate and the Graduate Enrollment and Recruitment Task Force. So, as many of you are aware, last GPSC meeting I presented the Council with the problematic draft produced by the Undergraduate Education Policies Committee of the Faculty Senate with the intention of drafting a statement to be read at the February 14th meeting of the Faculty Senate. When I reached out to Dr. Davey, President of the Faculty Senate, she informed me that the policy had been pulled from the agenda of both committees, and she hoped that the Grad Council and Policies Committee would work with the UEPC to draft a collaborative document. In response, Ryan Netzley, chair of the UEPC, introduced a resolution to recommend rejection of the provost's proposal, which would effectively force Faculty Senate to have a conversation about his proposed policy within the discussion of the resolution. Dr. Davey felt it prudent to invite representatives from GPSC to the Faculty Senate EC so that we could provide input on the perspective of students where the proposed policy is concerned. So this brings us to the meeting at 12:30 this afternoon, when I explained the content of my objections to the attendance policy and the problems inherent in the document. This meeting was unproductive at best, antagonistic at worst, as Dr. Netzley did not appear to have any interest in listening to our concerns with the document. Rather, he spent the majority of the time in an attempt to force me to defend the provost document, which I declined to do, and sought to engage in hair splitting over the distinction between behavioral expectations and actions. Moreover, he offered no actual explanation for several of the inconsistencies in the document or justification for several of the more problematic sections. Moreover, one of the arguments he advanced was grounded in the presumption that requiring a faculty member to generate recapitulations of course material would be a violation of workload requirements enshrined within the GAU and Faculty Association contracts, despite this section of policy providing blanket authority for a faculty member and a GA to simply refuse to meet with a student during office hours to provide said recapitulation. He further doubled down on the general perception by faculty of a quote, reasonable assumption, end quote, among faculty that mental health emergencies did not need to be explicitly mentioned and the criteria of illness would cover all other physical maladies. This strikes me as being at odds with the stated purpose of the policy during the meeting, which was to provide faculty with guidelines for actions where attendance policies are concerned. Put simply, the chair of the Undergraduate Education Policy Committee does not seem to see an issue with anything in his draft and intends to proceed in this line of reasoning. To this end, I would like to request of the general body all commentary on the proposed absence policies by the close of business on the 10th of February. You guys should have all gotten the policies in your email. If not, I will resend it.
We'll send last week.
Last week? Okay. So,
And furthermore, what we'll do is, we're providing, I'm just adding to, we will provide a web form that you can go on our page or a link that you can share to your constituents that provides an embedded thing of the same document and a place for you to put your name and your comment.
okay. All right. That's fine with me. So, Dr. Davey has requested such commentary before the Faculty Senate meeting so that they may have it in their decision-making process. Additionally, I will provide the commentary to the Graduate Council Education Policies Committee to ensure that they too have our commentary. Moreover, I will be reaching out to Dr. Davey concerning the conduct of the meeting and the additional possibility of attending the general meeting of the Faculty Senate. So this leads me to the final point. The Faculty Senate and Graduate Council at times have indicated a blatant disregard for the representation of the graduate and professional student body in their policy-making decisions. While we do have representation on many of these committees, it has become apparent that we are in need of additional representation on administrative and shared governance committees, which would likely mean more work for me. But where decisions about graduate education are being made. To this end, I will be drafting a resolution requesting the addition of the sitting presidents of GPSC and USG to the list of ex officio members of Faculty Senate. While this addition would mean that we could not vote, it would enable us to voice an opinion on Faculty Senate matters that affect us. Finally, as an aside, Dean Lee, during the Graduate Enrollment and Recruitment Task Force meeting, continued to express his frustration at the declining graduate student population and the lack of administrative support for measures that would slow the attrition of graduate students. The last thing I have is, last GPSC meeting, I said that we would generate a draft of a statement in support of the WGSS department. I have been swamped in work, so I have not generated that statement. You guys, I will generate said statement, send it to the Diversity and Equity, the Diversity and Inclusivity Advisory Committee, and then hopefully circulate it to the general body tomorrow, with the hope that any commentary on the statement be provided by the close of business on February 10th, so that the statement is ready for release the following week. Are there
You want to leave it to Chris to explain the event coming up?
for the rally?
Yeah.
You want to explain the rally, Frank?
Probably what about that? I know you said in the email, so.
Yeah, the WGSS RSO is holding a rally on the 15th of this month, starting at 1 o'clock at the mountain, to support the WGSS department and the possibility of the department being merged into another COLA department. Please come.
Are there any questions concerning anything within my report?
You said you want the comments for the absence policy by the 10th?
Yes, closed business on the
Okay.
10th, 4:30, I guess.
You might be interested to know that Dr. Nestle does not, Dr. Nestle's own policy for his own courses. His policy for his own courses is you don't have to show up. If you don't show up, I won't comment on your papers. But there's no grade effect. I did not show up to any class and turn in the papers and still get an A, 10 with. So he might be a little skewed in his.
So, and what we had, and the reason why, we were, John, we decided I think the best course going forward at the very least is to create, a resolution, for de facto positions, because it's not so much what he, did for something he was, it's the reaction to GPSC representatives on the whole, this year especially, because we made it one of our goals to be more active and engaged. We have been time and time again dismissed and kind of, I mean, more or less belittled by a lot of faculty people or administrators who just like, oh, you have no idea what you're talking about. They don't say it in so many words, but the body language and the,
Actually, Nestle said that in
Oh.
so many words.
okay, in so many words. So this way, and it's hard to have a source of grounding when you're just there as a visitor. So as we have representation at Grad Council, they know they can't treat us like that every week because we're going to be there and keep coming, and they they know it's just not worth that. So in line with that, and with line with the obvious deficiencies and represent care for thought of actual students at faculty senate at this time. And we're not saying the president, but just the members of the Senate as a whole is why we want to go forward and do this, because even the administration has expressed concern to us on the lack of student care. They feel like they should still be able to teach just the way they taught in 1970 and they're tenured, so kind of just switching off a cliff. If you disagree with me, please can't fire me and look at something crazy. Anyone have any, is everyone okay with that? Any concerns about asking for a de facto seat on faculty senate? The other thing that we talked about, we may also separately pursue, but would probably be led by GAU, is to have VAs of record being included under the definition of a viable member on faculty senate. So if you are someone like Mr. Austin over here, who is not only teaching class but in charge of other GAs underneath him, he would be seen as an instructor because that's what he is. He just like did pay way less money.
So it's the language of faculty senate lists instructors as in the class of faculty who can be members of faculty senate. I am assuming that the faculty senate is using the institutional designation of instructor, and if you are an instructor of record for a course, technically you might be counted as an instructor. I'm going to confirm with Provost Ford, and if that is the case, then faculty senate's own operating papers could not bar a graduate student listed as instructor of record for their own course from participating in faculty senate. They would still need to be elected by the given college or department, but there would be no bar for participation in anything. And this is actually a very serious point. If they intend to include instructors of record in the classification of graduate students who are instructors of record in the classification of individuals who count as instructors, then graduate students who are instructors of record would then be granted participation in all decisions that instructors can participate in. So every department meeting, every college-wide meeting, every shared governance administrative meeting would be open to a graduate assistant who is listed as an instructor of record, but this all depends on whether or not provost board, or rather not the faculty senate or the institution includes instructors of record under the class of instructors, because then we become pseudo-faculty with all the privileges but none of the pay, which means they can't keep us from participating in meetings. So if you went to, say, a COLA meeting and they threw you out, that would be a violation of your rights as an instructor, and you could literally run that up the administrative chain.
Women's Task Force.
Women's Task Force, yeah.
Okay. So the Women's Task Force is a newly created task force that is spearheaded by Vice Chancellor Stetler, and I have been asked to be the student representative for the Women's Task Force. And so I believe that we're holding our first meeting on February, it's 2 Fridays from now, or something like that. But this has been, in association with Professor Cindy Bice, who's the director of international law at the law school, and I believe Barbara Bickle, what has come to fruition, and they've worked really hard. This was created by our faculty, and they worked really hard to actually create this task force to address issues that affect women on our campus. So as far as what kind of things we're going to talk about yet, I don't know, because there are taking recommendations from those of us that are on the task force of what kind of things to address first. So I will have more information about that in the future.
Thank you.
You want to talk about the insurance?
Yeah, so I'm already here. I only have a few of these because this is confidential information. So I did write confidential, and I'm very clear. Please do not take pictures of it. If you would like to write this out on a sheet of paper yourself, that is fine. I need you to discuss this with your constituency. This is about the help. That's for you all. So you can look at this one. So basically, for the Student Health Advisory Board, we were discussing our health insurance policy. Here at SIUC, it is a requirement, it's a mandatory requirement that every student have health insurance. And basically that boils down to that if you're under 26 years old, you can remain on your parents' insurance, and you can opt out of the insurance that the college provides, and you'll get your, I think it's like $600 and something back per semester. You have to opt out. Currently, we have what is called a platinum plan for the 2016-17 school year, and it costs per student $650. And that platinum plan from Aetna, it's a fabulous plan. I don't know how many people here have it, but it is probably the best insurance that you're gonna get. So even students that are on their parents' insurance probably don't have as good of insurance as this policy is. However, Aetna has informed the college that the enrollment, so our enrollment has gone down about 2,000 persons throughout the whole campus. It's graduate school, professional, everything. So about 2,000 people per semester. So where we had 17,000 people enroll for fall last year, we only had 15,000 enrolled this year. And therefore, with insurance, economics, we don't have as many people in the pool anymore. And we also had 57 high claims on this insurance policy, the platinum plan, which cost quite a bit of money from Aetna's perspective. So Aetna is with Gallagher. Gallagher is our actual who helps us find our contractor. So they actually help us find these policies, and they did a wonderful job with actually speaking with Aetna about what can we do, because Aetna said, basically they're going to probably drop us. So what they propose is that we go to the gold plan. So So we're gonna step down one, we're gonna go from platinum to the gold plan. This is gonna cost students okay, well, it's gonna cost more, so it's gonna cost more. And I think that with our, they're gonna actually subsidize a little bit of it, so I think in the long run, it's actually gonna only be around $50-ish more per semester for the fee. But it's still gonna be really good insurance, it's just some of the out-of-pocket is gonna go up. But it's still gonna be probably one of the best plans that you're even gonna be able to get outside of this college. So we need to speak with our constituents because the SHAB board did vote already that yes, that we think it's a good idea, but the official vote will be in March. And so we need to make sure that this is what the constituency wants.
And we're also thinking about GPSC as a whole.
Right.
Basically is that right now the market trend is for insurance like inflation, well more than inflation, goes up 15% per year for like the last 10 or so more years. I mean, so you keep that and the fact that they actually got a full year of data on our claims that went up quite a bit. The reason I want to state line by line is because when they come to us and what you should probably happen next time at the SHAD meeting is a comparison, because there still is, I would say, very high likelihood that what you can get in the market right now is still costs more with less benefits than
Right. So I think that costs is our primarily the thing that we are going to want to get to our constituents. But this is what I think across the board, I think a lot of institutions are having to do a lot of things like this due to just nationwide their enrollment is down. So if you have questions, I'll take questions. Anything?
I do have a question, because it seems like, so we're going down in plan, but the prices increased substantially. And so my issue is with the pharmacy copay. Like, the first one, yes, okay, it goes up $5, but then it goes from the second tier from 25 to 40. So for a person who's getting maybe not a generic birth premium, they're gonna end up spending more money each semester on their, drugs, prescriptions. So even though it's only a $50 increase per semester, they're gonna really see a substantial change, and the policy is not even the same, so.
Like I said, I agree with you, that's not even the biggest number on there.
Right.
There's a lot more.
But honestly, this is a step down from what we had. But whenever they went outside the perimeter of what Aetna provides, there was not a better plan.
Can they, is it
So
not
if you were to
supposed
go
to
into
see?
the market or anywhere else, like this school doesn't have an option, we're either taking this, or they have to scrap the whole program.
Or you'll have to go find your own
Everyone
insurance.
just
But
has
you
to
will
find
be
their own.
required to have insurance,
Okay.
or you
Yeah.
can't remain because it's
So
mandatory.
basically, they already did a comparison with like other insurance.
They just don't have one to provide for you.
Yes,
Their initial comparison, what they wanted to
a whole
show
committee.
on the committee was compared to other universities, rather than just out to the direct market. And you suggested strongly that, like in the past, would show us what it would take you, the person, like the individual student, what would it cost me to go get on the market today, right now. And so we'll have that comparison
Now,
as well.
But I
would
don't know,
like
I'm
to
not talking
say
about that
that
comparison.
we negotiate this annually. Okay, we negotiate this annually. So, say that there's a lot of things that could happen with the new administration. Say that they rolled back the requirement that you could be on your parents' insurance until you're 26. If they rolled that back to 18, right there would be a flood of people that had to get insurance to remain in school. And so most of them would probably take our insurance plans, which would add a lot of healthy people into the pool. Currently, we're seeing that in the pool that we have, that there were a lot of people that used the plan that had some major healthcare concerns. And this is one reason why we have health insurance, because if those people wouldn't have had health insurance, most likely they would have had to drop out of college and not remain here, not get their degree. The reason we have mandatory insurance is so that that doesn't happen, and that our students can remain in college and remain having a supportive group that can help them through whatever they're going through. So with the insurance plan, this is what we're proposing currently for this
That's
next
our
year. But the year after, we will renegotiate this plan. And if we get a substantial, if our 2,000 people per semester come back, we get that enrollment number back up, or if we get a substantial amount of people that enroll in our insurance plans that are already in the college, regardless of how the numbers work out, if there's a substantial amount of people that enroll into this plan, then we can renegotiate it and probably go back to the platinum plan. But as it stands right now, Aetna is saying no, that this platinum plan, this is not even an option. So to get this plan, it would be a lot more expensive than what we are proposing in the 2017-18 plan under the gold.
Right, but that wasn't my question. I was trying to figure out, did they do a comparison with other, not talking about individual
Yes.
going out, but I mean, with other companies?
Yes.
That's what I was.
Oh, okay, so you
So I'm
said
saying is,
individuals, so I was just wondering.
Aetna was still the
As a
best
whole.
plan.
Okay,
They
so
looked at
Aetna-
a lot of other companies, but the plan we already had, because we already had them, we were better in a better bargaining position to negotiate the price with them than we were with any new company that we proposed.
So right now, if you're just doing a comparison of the gold is still more than other companies are quoting right now?
No.
So we put it
this is-
last year, we were the only place or entity in the Midwest that had a platinum plan anywhere, period.
Right.
So no companies, no schools.
No way.
They were forced to give us such a good quote because the board of trustees says we're voting on this time, and we were only allowed to quote on a short amount of data, so they didn't have an incomplete data set in which they quoted us on.
Right.
And so we got a
had a happy-
really good deal.
Of data.
What I just want you to keep in mind is when you look at that is, so if you were to opt out or if this doesn't get passed, you want to go to the market, or even say if you have for instance, when I worked at the company, my copay under my grade insurance that I paid $900 a month for me and my kids, it was a $65 copay for premium pharmaceuticals. And so that copay is likely going to cost you more anywhere else you go, even though ours is going up. Because in general, all insurance costs are going up at a rate of 10 to 15%.
And the pharmacy here,
Most.
with these numbers, this will be what they charge. But I'm sure that you can speak with those professionals, and then they can give you options outside of our plan. They could possibly help with any of these costs. Say that you did have a lot of expensive pharmaceuticals.
I get what you guys are saying, but I'm just saying as a student, they're gonna see the change, like, okay, $50, but when they realize they wanna go to the doctor, it's an extra 20, when they realize that they're gonna realize that costs, and
The
so.
20 is only to
thinking
go
about
to
it.
somewhere outside the student health center. So it's-
Okay, so the student's health center is still gonna be $6.
Yeah, that's a different
Okay.
fee. This is the cost of insurance. This is not the cost of the fees of the student health center. The student health center is a different fee. You will still go in the student health center, whether you have an x-ray, a cold, get a flu shot, whatever you are being seen for in the student health center, you will still only pay the $6 fee.
But, there still is a cost of pharmacy, and a lot
There's
of
no
times,
question that it's gonna
oftentimes,
be,
Yeah.
the cost is going up and your coverage is going down and getting more expensive. If you look at the alternatives, what else to tell you that it can't be better, because it's not better anywhere else, of course.
Yeah, it's worse. So, those fees that you're seeing for pharmaceutical, they are much more expensive on the other plans that were compared. So the only reason we got this rate, and this was, Aetna originally said a lot more than this, like a lot more expensive than this. But because we had been in the plan with them previously, we were in a better bargaining position to negotiate this rate.
Well, the reason why I was mentioning, the reason why I was talking about the cost is because we were just saying earlier, was it at the end of last semester, that we're having problems with, keeping students here. The price of tuition is going up, the price of housing is going up, and it's like, okay, if you constantly see
That's
things going up, then it's like, why come to SIU? So I'm just thinking
right,
about
but that's
overall,
actually,
the
that's a
issues that we have.
nationwide problem, that's not just.
I understand that, but we also have a budget issue.
So the thing with
here.
this,
So I'm just thinking about.
so this situation is directly tied to our enrollment problem.
Yes.
Right? So even the 200 graduate students we lost would put a dent in our insurance premiums, not to mention the 7.9% of the total student body that we just lost between a semester. So this is the only fee that we have that is directly tied to enrollment. It will change with a change in enrollment. So if you want to blame somebody for the colossal problem that we have now, you can talk to the administration about how they're managing or how they're stopping the hemorrhaging of students, right? So this is one of those fees that is directly tied to our enrollment and our retention. If we fail to enroll or fail to retain our students, that fee goes up, especially given the huge amounts that we lose.
Quite clear. I'd say the administration and by and large the state for the lack of actually passing a budget. They're the only country who's failed to do so over the last 2 years.
It's true. IDAG.
That in of itself is a big part of this. I would say the one possibility and most likelihood we could have an action that can impact on lowering the insurance if we were to want to keep it, given this body fought extremely hard a couple of years ago to actually institute this plan, because otherwise with self-funded insurance we're going to be sent to the market, is what they wanted to do, would be to reach out to our sister campus in Edwardsville and convince their student body, government, and students to advocate in the same manner in which we did, because their insurance plan is basically a major medical. They don't pay very much money for it, and they don't get very much coverage as well. And the administration wasn't like that because it's simple and they don't have to deal with it.
Yeah, they don't want to be in our.
Yeah. But it also means that the students at Edwardsville they have crappy insurance that they, even though they don't have to pay very much money for it. So our best chance, if we really want to lower the insurance, because I don't think any of us can magically flip the switch and get 5,000 people to come back to next year, would be to work with and see if the Edwardsville student government would be interested in orchestrating the same type of movement that we did 2 years ago. Because if you got all that into a pool, you would see a massive reduction in savings all across the board, because our pool would almost it would more than double.
Saying that, it would still take time, and we would still need to agree on a plan. It seems that taking a step down and going to the goal plan is the best that we can get right now. Being the appointment to Shab, I think that it's it's what we're gonna have. It's better than nothing. So I'm hoping that we can, and I asked a lot of questions about how we can renegotiate the plan, and we will renegotiate it next year to see what our data shows then, what our enrollment shows then. Hopefully something will change between today and fall, and we can renegotiate this next January. But our plan is negotiated off of the fall enrollment numbers, so spring also, but primarily fall.
You know, any more questions they can ask Shannon or myself after the meeting, if you're really interested, especially since I'm seeing if you're not, so I'm going to move on to the one and only Vice President and Administrator for Affairs, Willie Lyles.
Thank you, Brandon, for that wonderful intro. By way of event funding, we have one to consider today. It is from Zeta Phi Beta. They are a sorority here on campus. They are asking us to support one of their events during their final womanhood week. This event is going to honor it's Men's Appreciation Dinner. It celebrates exemplary men in the SIU and Carbondale community. Awardees include faculty, staff, and graduate students, local role models that are accomplished and have set high standards for success. They are only asking for $300. The staff voted earlier today to approve this, so we are making a recommendation to support this event. Can I get a motion?
Or any questions?
Thank you. Can I get a second?
All in favor?
Any discussion?
Oh, sorry.
Okay. All in favor? All opposed? Okay, we have 2 abstentions, two no's.
Is there a reason, I mean, so if you don't
The
vote,
rest
you can say why if you want.
Well, how much money do we have left?
So we have, $1,500 left based
For the
on
rest
what,
of the
for the rest of
semester.
the semester. And that's with that deduction.
Okay.
We, based on what we, funded last year, we are right on par with, being able to make it to the rest of the semester.
Okay.
If you don't want to share the file, we're just saying, like, we don't want to, like, that's what the whole point is, like, we want to hear why and what, that helps provide context.
Well, part of mine is also that question, which one do you have to go on, but I guess I also just didn't see why it's completely necessary.
Good. So,
For the record, that passes, everyone needs.
yes. Our next piece of business is, did you get rid of it?
I didn't get it, I think I have to sign into mine to record it. Where am I going?
I need the student activity fee resolution. It's in, that.
Alright. Do you have anything else to talk about?
So while Brandon is pulling up the resolution, last meeting, said that we would come to you with a resolution, addressing the survey that we released today. It's posted on our website, and we shared it with Vice President Lori Stetler, or Vice Chancellor, excuse me, Lori Stetler today. This student activity fee resolution speaks about the results of the survey. Some of the top lines which I shared with you all during our last meeting. To the point that was made earlier, as enrollment decreases, because our funding is based on the actual number of people, graduate students, graduate professional students who are paying, our budget has decreased. So a survey that we did last semester, which I think everyone participated in here, wanted to gauge the participation of graduate professional students in SPC-sponsored events. The data that we got seems to demonstrate that graduate professional students are less interested in SPC-sponsored events and more interested in the events that we sponsor via our event funding budget line. To that end, the resolution states that GPSC supports a shifting away from SPC's budget of $3 per semester per graduate student to GPSC to support graduate professional programming or programming that graduate and professional students actually attend. In addition to that, we're also asking for 2 seats on the SPC that would be appointed by the president of GPSC.
Everyone got this thing, you know, right?
There's the resolution. I did not send it because we hadn't approved it yet.
Okay. You guys want to read this? I know everyone doesn't have the most wonderful website. I can read this, or we're not going to do. Do you want to vote on this now?
We can, or we can wait. It's up to you.
So we open the floor. Would you guys rather have this in your email, look at it, and vote on the next meeting, or I can read this out and you can vote on it now? It's up to you.
Just read it.
Just read it.
I'd rather have an email so that I could look at it, but that's one person so far.
No. Okay.
What's our time, like, when is your timeline?
Well,
When do you present this?
Whenever Brandon's next meeting is, I guess, or whenever you would want to schedule a meeting with the chancellor.
Thursday. So ideally, we want to do this now, so that way I can bring this in front of the chancellor before the board of trustees meeting, and everyone knows that John is going to. So, sorry, it's been a long process, but happy to send an email after which there's everything in here is what he said it is. But okay, I'll just read it. So whereas the GPSC is the recognized governing and representative body for all graduate and professional students at Southern Illinois University Carbondale, whereas the GPSC Executive Committee made reallocating the student activity fee for better graduate and professional use a top priority in the 2016-17 academic year, whereas GPSC conducted a survey of graduate and professional students in part on the student activity fee, whereas graduate and professional students of SIU see through the survey have expressed dissatisfaction with programming available to and targeted for graduate and professional students, whereas the majority of graduate and professional students have attended departmental events and lectures based on the results of the survey, whereas GPSC supports departmental events and lectures through its event funding budget line, whereas GPSC event funding budget line supports professional development for our constituency, whereas GPSC recently has been used to support functions that have been traditionally funded by departments and academic units such as journal productions, whereas a majority of graduate and professional students are dissatisfied with how the student activity fee is spent based on the results of the survey, whereas a strong majority of the graduate and professional students would like to see the student activity fee reallocated to better enable GPSC to fund programming specifically for graduate and professional students based on the results of the survey. Therefore, be it resolved, the $3 shift per professor per student from the Student Programming Council budget line directly to the GPSC, in addition to funding already allocated to GPSC via the student activity fee. Therefore, be it also resolved, there should be
Yes.
also resolved that GPSC supports the creation of the 2 positions on the Student Programming Council to be appointed by the president of GPSC so that graduate and professional students are represented in the development of programming intended for the entire campus. The second be it resolved is important. Has anyone tried to become a board member of the Student Programming Council? It is not easy at all, and time constraints and scheduling make it almost impossible for graduates. We've attempted multiple years now, even though one of our previous presidents was a member. Since then, it's been very difficult even to get a graduate student an interview, let alone being an appointee, and currently there are 0 graduate students representing or making decisions or providing context to SBC and their events, and has been such the last couple of years. Any questions?
I assume, oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
I assume that when you say the GPSC supports the resolution for the reallocation, you mean graduate student reallocation of the fee for the student program, so the graduate students pay, not the entire school.
Correct.
Right, okay.
The portion of the fee that we pay
Right,
go
right.
to, yeah. And that being as such isn't a huge, crazy amount of money, which
Right.
is why you have the second resolved, which would also give some better representation in helping get more graduate-minded, academically focused programs that we'd like to see as well. Feel free to talk. This is like we're
I
open.
also know too, looking at the decrease of the funding that the faculty has received in past years. Like past years, like pretty much we're just saying, give us what you used to give us. And that sounds strange, but like we only had like $10,000 to start with,
Yeah.
and that's trying to do things that other programs are having to cut. So we have people are requesting things that they usually would request. Whereas before, I think we had, a budget of 15, 17,000, things like that. So it's this decrease, but it's not supporting our students and their desires of what they participate on campus. Like we're supplementing that, but SBC is not.
It speaks to a much larger picture.
That makes sense.
Oh, no, I mean, I understand it. I don't
Yeah.
oppose it. I just thought the
Yeah, it's
language,
unclear.
a specific note that says graduate student fees as opposed to just generically student activity fee In general,
We can add that.
yeah,
Yeah, it's the student activity fee paid by graduate students.
yeah.
Or per
Graduate.
semester per graduate professional student.
Yeah, there's something, okay, yeah, we can do with that. Yeah, that's no problem.
I'm going to POT on Thursday. You want me to bring the stanchion or anything with me? Just the international letter.
We can talk about it. So we just, if we vote for it, we'll, see if I can get to the chance of that.
You could just bring the sanctuary one to write up and we could ask them questions and get that out of the way.
Okay.
Sorry, I added an item.
Can I get a motion?
Motion.
Can I get a second? Awesome. Any discussion? Further discussion? All those in favor, please vote by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Awesome.
Oh,
I mean, I could bring it up on your tablet and read it.
But that has to be part of the
Yeah.
distinction between the graduate.
And we'll,
Yeah.
and that motion is with the,
reflected notations,
with those.
that you know.
Thank you.
Yeah, and just an aside too, for budgetary reasons, like in 2011, our GPSC budget was $128,000. This year, we write it in on, was it 63 or 64? And so, like I said, this goes along the same notion of cutting all the executive salaries in half and having to cut everything else down, now trying to get our own 501c3 account so we can ever, raise our own funds independently. Like, it's a diversification process that hopefully when we do get a budget, we will be all the more stronger for it. And so those coming in are behind us will, reap the benefits that we're still having to go through. So it kind of sounds like it doesn't really help me right now, but just
I would also point out that given that COLA apparently has no travel funding for graduate students, that puts even more of a burden on us because COLA is huge. And there's a lot of graduate students who travel for conferences. And so along with the USG not funding events that include graduate students and various other things that have happened this year in the budget, it gets tighter and tighter and tighter.
Yeah, and we're the only one who provides any sort of and I still don't think it's very significant, but amount of funding. And I would argue too that had we not changed our policies last year, they would have probably tried to freeze those as well. But because we intentionally pulled our funding process out of the schools and have complete autonomy over it rather than going through travel services, that's the only reason we can still get that funding period. So,
Thank you all. My last point is
Be in your email.
just read it. Does it need to appear as well, or?
no, I just wanted to see what my last item was. I think it was the yes. So in conjunction with USG, we have started to work on a legislative road trip. This would hopefully be in lieu of the annual trip that we take to Springfield. If some of you have gone in the past, you will recall that it was or has been a complete waste of time and our ability to actually advocate and meet with policymakers. So what we are proposing to do with this road trip is to actually go to their district offices while they're home, away from Springfield, taking 4 members of USG, 4 members of GPSC to speak directly with up to 15 representatives and senators over a 2-day course, all the way from Chicagoland to Central Illinois to Metro East, to have a conversation with them about why supporting higher education is so important and why they should keep that segmency in mind as they're making those decisions. We had a meeting, a very productive meeting today with Vice Chancellor Stetler, who said that she would get back with me on Friday about supporting this financially. I feel very confident that we'll get that support. In the event that we do not, the executive committee has given their support, and USG is also on board as well. So this is going to go forward with or without the support of the administration, but it's good to have their support financially. In addition to the legislative road trip, that will take place April the 12th through the 13th. We are planning a local day of action where we meet with our local legislative delegation on February 21st. We're in the process of scheduling those meetings. If anyone is interested in participating in that, see me after this meeting or send me an email. We'll have times shortly, time slots shortly available for folks who want to participate in those meetings.
How long is your affirmative action?
Affirmative action, no report.
That's unfortunate.
Well, we met, but there's.
What we had on the agenda.
Brandon.
So while Brandon is absent, I will take this moment to remind all of you who are on contract as a GA, RA, TA, AA, or any other such contracted individual, and that you are invited to a listening session on February 8th at 5 p.m. in the Feiner Museum auditorium. There will be no faculty present. The listening session will be similar in form to the listening session organized for students earlier in the year. Donald Chamberlain and I will be taking notes for the Diversity Council. All of the input provided will be used in the development of the Diversity Council's diversity plan. This meeting is specifically to address concerns of diversity and inclusivity within students or within graduate assistants' performances of their duty as graduate assistants. E.g., if you have a concern with diversity in the context of doing your jobs as GAs, the listening session is intended for that. All of your input will be taken down by myself and Donald Chamberlain and then provided to the Diversity Council for use in the diversity plan. I am under the assumption that Dr. Lewin, Donald, and myself will be compiling those responses, those notes, into their own document for incorporation into the Diversity Council to preserve the anonymity of the students. So no faculty will be present, no administrator will be present, even Dr. Lewin herself will not be present because we did not feel that students would feel free to share their experiences in the presence of administrators, many of whom they report to. Harrison.
Before winter break, I think I got an email, I think it was sent to everyone about the keys.
Yes, I sent that. I have heard nothing from Dean Lee about that. That is on my list of things to ask him about at our next scheduled meeting. He said he would reach out to Kevin Bain. I'm fairly certain that any slowdown is on Kevin Bain's side and not on Dean Lee's side, because he can only compel so much participation from the non-instructional side of the house. So the lack of response on that is probably due to Kevin Bain, and I will send Dean Lee a second reminder to see where he's at with that.
Okay.
The key situation.
Do you do the letter? You did that?
I know we were.
The runners copy. You know.
Okay.
So what's up? It's not there, but we'll have some copies there now of the response.
More than you.
Yeah. You passed it. Yeah, we're just bringing more right now. So if I'm passing it down. And like I said, this is the response, because this is going through the committee, correct? So this is our subcommittee on
Diversity and inclusivity policy.
The
D&I committee.
D&I committee.
We don't have one acronym.
As long as they have an acronym that's understandable.
Okay.
So, the D&I committee's response to the Chancellor's statement on sanctuary campuses from our initial joint request. As you know, this was the hot bucket topic. I don't think it's going to be the case, but we felt, and the committee also felt that we have some sort of response because, again, the administration understandably has a way of being ambiguous and non-committal because they don't want to get themselves into trouble, but they also want to try and say they're supportive, which really, from our instance, and you can disagree if you tell me if you disagree, but by and large, students just feel like it's like they don't care because they're just trying to cover their own behind in current status of higher education and the fact that everyone here has an interim status attached to their title. So this is the proposed response from the D&I committee. I'll let you look over it a little bit. John already explained it, and I'll pull a motion to support it after my report. So that way we can present it at the Board of Trustees meeting and to the Chancellor this coming week. For me specifically, the Budget Advisory Committee, and more specifically the Non-Academic Higher Education Committee report. I cannot release it to you yet, but I can say
Oh, the one from your.
Yeah. Is that they've taken the committee that John was on and part and parcel organized it into things that we're already doing, things that we can quickly do with ease and effectiveness, and things that we should be doing long term for the rest of the university, and put them rank and file. Some of these things don't directly relate to students, some of them very much do reflect students. By and large, I am satisfied with working with John and his own committee to get as much information as possible to advocate on our behalf. That the report, while not perfect, is something. It's pretty obvious that the university, one of the reasons we're in the fiscal state that we're in is that we refuse to actually implement solid cuts and changes. And this is a step in that direction. And we're being included in that process, and so as long as we continue to be included in that process and can fight for the things that we care about and actually make cuts at the same time that are fiscally responsible, that's the overall goal, and that's what's happening right now. If you don't have any specific questions, I will release that to you as soon as I'm allowed to into the general body. If you have any questions at that time, feel free to respond. And we'll address them at the following meeting. Moving on from that, Chancellor Search Committee with the Senate, is that already on there? Did you 7 finalists? Do we have it?
No.
So we have 7 finalists for the Chancellor Search Committee. I just want to make sure that was a repeat. Okay. And those interviews will be held via Skype starting into this month.
We still can't tell us.
We can't tell you who they are. We won't have knowledge of who they are until we get to the finalist level. I can tell you that our John Flowers is now going to be with me representing GAU, and we have the student trustee and the vice president of USG on there. And usually I don't get to say this, but I'm actually pretty satisfied with the student representation given the size of the committee. And so we will feel like make a positive impact. We're going in interviews wherever, like the students will have a voice the best that we feel like you guys care about and helping decide who the finalists are. And once the finalists do come to campus after spring break, we will hold our independent Q&A for each individual finalist in the place that we used to hold our meetings. And there will also be general questions as a whole, and there'll be a whole, rigmarole. Overall, though, I'm optimistic that this time we'll actually end up with a chancellor. Ideally, who will stay on every 2 years, because he's been here as long as I had. We've seen and dealt with at least 4 chancellors, and it has to at least be a big chunk of why we are at where we're at. So.
So it's expected that the person chosen will start in the fall 20.
The person chosen will start July 1st.
Okay.
To be fair, some of this chancellor search stuff is holding up other appointments because they want the chancellor to provide input on subsequent appointments.
I.e. the biggest one that being year that was notably recognized by the DE, our very own Vice Chancellor of Student Affairs, which looks like, even though promised, we have seen evidence of a search committee for herself, could arguably be because the chancellor, that's something the chancellor would want to have some say in the charge of that church. So progress, not a lot, but progress nonetheless. It's something I can live with. I'm not super happy about it. Moving on, GPSC bylaws update. I've been promising this for months, and I know, and I don't say it sarcastically, but months. Happy to say that we have and you received a rough draft of both by now, the Constitution and the bylaws that are updated. They're not super crazy different. What they are is cleanly formatted, reflect the actual comings and goings of this body as it has been facilitated over the last 5 years, and that it is constitutionally sound, given that the time spent in overview. I would ask you to look through it. If you need another copy of the actual Constitution itself, which we sent out before break, would that something you guys would want? You know, to search for in your inboxes.
It's not on the website.
Yes, it is on the website. Okay, so yes. The proposed one is on the website, but it's not like under the actual Constitution.
So this is the updated one.
This is the proposed update. So,
2011.
yes, it's the last time it's been updated.
Oh, okay. Oh, it's not recently updated like this year.
No, we this year and we last year decided, given the last time it was updated was 2011, and even though from a framework perspective is pretty sound and much better than what USG had and already still has, which is really messy and didn't reflect the things that we actually do on a day-to-day basis. So we abandoned a lot of the things that we had put out in the Constitution. So there you have it. Any questions about that?
We'll vote on that next.
Yeah, the goal is voted on our next meeting. If you have any questions or concerns, please email them and just you can send it, highlight it, do whatever you want, and we'll try to get back to you in as real time as is possible. So that way, when we vote on it next meeting, we don't spend our whole time talking about that. But we don't want to making you feel like it's been forced on your throat or you're signing something, voting for something you don't understand at the same time.
We want this to be an efficient process.
Yes. I also want to thank the executive committee, Clay, Diana, John's not here, also John and Willie. We literally all spent at least, I'd say 20 hours or more. I'd say individually working on new documents throughout the year. Literally gone through it line by line to make it better and more accurate and yeah. Any questions?
I'm tired. I'm tired.
Okay, well now I will move on. GPSC Cares, there's the same as before. I'll update you when I have an update. Community reports or updates. You know, you got the help with Shab. Is there any other updates? Events?
Yeah, I see.
Go for it.
Okay, this weekend on Saturday, we're doing our semesterly iron pour out of the Art Foundry, which is at 1560 West Pleasant Hill Road, in the direction of PD. We'll be pouring iron from about 8 a.m. to 10 p.m. We'll be selling scratch blocks from noon to 6, which are basically and you can buy scratch blocks for $15. We have squares, hearts, and ovals. and you can scratch whatever you want into it, and then we'll pour iron into it, and then you can take it home and give it as a gift or whatever you want. And I also invited a lot of women from the metalcore community to this event because I feel like we need a little more support in that department down here. So you're not only supporting the art and design department and the sculpture department, but also women in metalcore, which is great too.
Yeah, but do you have any sort of flyer or material you give us?
I have a flyer I can email.
Please, and we'll post that on our website and on the door and stuff like that. Is there an age? Does it have to be a student, or I try to get my daughter to it? Is there like
Yeah, it's like roped off, so you can watch us, like it's like a big show basically where we just pour iron for everybody to watch, and then it's roped off where it's like safe back there to see, you're just going to listen to see what's going on.
What time did you say it was?
It'll be all day long, but from probably like noon to 6 is like the height.
That's 1560 Pleasant Hill Road.
Yes. It's like if you go out to that huts and then down and you turn right down that road, it's like that opposite hut.
Yeah.
And we'll probably just put it down there.
Sorry. GAU has a happy hour on Thursday at 8 p.m. Come out and support the union. This is actually really important because one of the things impacted by declining student enrollment is union membership, and union membership is the big stick that we get to swing around when the administration tries to do horrible things to our contracts. So come out, get a free beer on the union, hang out. I could probably tell you horror stories of things that I have to deal with when I'm not here.
In this month, where?
At the cellar.
Do you have a flyer for that?
I do, and I can send it out over the email.
When did you say?
8 p.m.
So we'll go back real quick. We want to say, are you going to draft resolution on the
The letter?
Yeah. No, not WGSS, it's on us. About the negative at all.
No.
Yeah, it's not happening.
Is it the USG thing?
It's the you call the thing.
Oh, yeah.
Last thing, so everyone's got to look at this. With cause for concern, it's something by and large already approved. So I'm just going to open motion. What?
What are you going to a brief?
You already did that. You already.
Fair enough. I don't have to talk about it anymore.
Motion is that the GPSC body as a whole support the document and recommendation of its D&I subcommittee as it relates to the original combined letter prior to the end of last semester. Can we get a second?
Second.
All in favor? Put your hands. Okay, all opposed? All right.
Well, actually, I'd like to know the reasons for your opposition.
Sure.
If that, I mean,
we're gonna be here another 45 minutes probably.
Yeah, I filibustered this for about an hour and a half last time I discussed it, so. I still don't think that this make explicit the university's commitment to student privacy by refusing to release information regarding the immigration status of our students and community members, except when required by federal or state law. So sanctuary cities, there's a lot going on with that right now, but the actual laws surrounding sanctuary cities is that sanctuary cities, the federal government, they choose not to let people that are there illegally, they might pick them up for something if they let them go. They choose not to report that to the federal government. The federal laws actually say that they're required to do that. So how some of this has gone on for as long as it has, I'm not really exactly sure. But I do think that we should put in services to help support the DACA students. I do think that they need information. We need to give them more information to help them with whatever needs that they might. But I don't think that our college, being a sanctuary campus, or our college.
This is not requesting a sanctuary designation.
The whole concept of the sanctuary information for the college, they've already said that they're not doing that, so I'm not sure why they would be up to par with issuing more information about it.
think we were saying in the first bullet point, the name is to say that the university will utilize its police, state constitutionally granted police power and not carrying out federal mandates in terms of going after information outside of FERPA and FERPA.
Okay. I think from the get-go, there was a right way to go about all this, and there was a wrong way. I clearly made my reservations and my concessions then, and we went about it the wrong way, in my opinion. And so I'm just not on board.
I have two primary objections. The first being, this letter requests accommodations and action on that on behalf of the administration that is, from my perspective, never going to happen. I mean, this list alone requires so many administrative resources, and in some cases, economic resources that the university is either unwilling or unable to provide.
Yeah, which one are you referring?
Really, the whole list. Well, specifically, let's see, interference with the Department of Public Safety, collecting all the data support services into a single office to centralize it. I mean, that's administrative maneuvering, perhaps financial maneuvering. The in-state tuition guarantee, the investigation to increase the visibility of campus-wide anonymous reporting mechanisms, providing training to all staff, coordinating with multicultural resources to provide different training to the students.
So to answer every one of those points, bullet points, the last one, coordinate with multicultural resource centers. Lori Settler has already said that this is not an issue. The administration just needs to get off its butt and do it. It has had no compulsion to do so. Provide training to all staff and faculty in de-escalation and intervention techniques already under discussion by the Diversity Council. The administration needs a kick in the butt to get off and do it. The core collection of elements of DACA support services into a single office is something that Dean Lee has asked for, and is something that undergraduate admissions has been batting about for a little bit because they're spread out all over the place. So these are not things that the institution would be accepting any undue burden to do. And I would not put them back in here if I hadn't gone and asked people about the realistic possibility of some of these things coming to fruition. The more difficult ones, e.g. The one that Sheena pointed out and some of the other stuff, the response that I've gotten is, well, we do this under FERPA. Yeah, sure. This is something that we're just asking the institution to make clear, not to specific administrators, but to students. It's basically a less polite information request. So,
I mean, that's all well and good. I mean, my objection was either the capacity or the will to do it. It seems they lack the will. And if that, well, and I appreciate that, but I don't know that going back at them once they've already said no necessarily serves the interest of this letter, which is my second objection. I think that there might be better ways to accomplish these goals rather than creating conflict with the administration, which, if I understand, the administration has a history of digging its heels in when it's been confronted on issues that it doesn't want to deal with.
No. I mean, historically, yes. Currently, no. So
Well-
what this letter is going to do, and I'll take is when I take it to the chancellor, is they'll go about me and say, well, I can't do this. It's not possible for funding. I can't do this. Or Brandon, we're already doing this. And I'll say, well, we'll just explain to the student body what FERPA is. Because when you hear FERPA, an international student or a DACA student or even a general student here, well, what is FERPA? Because I'm not a grad assistant, or I haven't been taking training on that with the means of releasing information. I'm not a law student. I don't understand, these type of things. And that's the other thing is, so I can tell you personally from my being ongoing conversation with the administration, probably more so than any other student government president in past history for this body, they're not going to just sit here and dig it.
Well, okay then. I mean, obviously this is going to pass over my objection anyway.
I don't know. I'm just saying.
So, I mean, the proof will be in the pudding. We'll see what happens when it goes through.
Yeah.
And my fears may or may not be realized.
So what is your, I guess the question is, what is your fear? Because in terms of like the negotiation,
Well-
at the minimum standard, we
I
asked
just,
for
I
this-
just wanted to hear the objection.
No, I'm saying, no, I mean,
Because I was curious,
No, yeah.
Yeah, in terms of this appearing, at least to me, to be a set of unlikely demands, I think one of the larger issues that this presents is that I mean, in terms of a negotiation, as you were saying, I mean, if you go in and you make an unreasonable demand, it puts you in a position with no bargaining power, and it makes your position look weak. Because if I go in and I say I want $45 million and they only have 2, then I look like an idiot. And this is one of the situations where I feel like it increases the appearance of impotency on behalf of the GPSC by requesting things that in my opinion, we cannot realistically obtain. That would be my third objection. And again, I feel like there are better mechanisms for us to accomplish some of what I think the goals of this letter are, which are admirable, and I agree with the premise, but I don't think that this is the most effective way to deal with it.
I just wanted to make a comment, because I remember when we had issues with, the problem with the last letter was, we don't know what Trump is going to do in office, so let's wait. So now that he's in office, now I feel like now people are trying to figure out other ways to still have issues with the letter. Like, now that he's in office and we already know what his plans are, what he's already doing regarding immigration, I still don't know what the hesitation is.
Well, the objection,
It's already being realized, like, what his intentions are.
but the objections I'm like now are the same ones I had to the letter the first time. I don't.
I merely asked for the reservations just so that I could hear them to see if there was any different reservations in the content of the letter.
Fully, yeah. Okay. I will say, since your concerns, to make it short, is this is more closer to a bad nut than you would know. I just can't just lay all of the information you know that.
Okay then.
But I just still think that from the get-go, we should have addressed it ourselves and not. We should address the whole situation as GPSC and not in unison with like USG and other groups, because now us kind of changing our position on certain things, I just think that the administration is not going to take this as seriously as they would have.
But I guess the thing that I've heard this twice. This is the guy that negotiates with the administration on our behalf, and he is saying, "I can work with this." So I'm confused.
And the reason for this pivot, just so you know, is because USG when they and I don't. Okay, I'm gonna cut it 30 seconds, and we're gonna close. We already approved the bill, and we all tired of doing things to do. Oh, we talk half those anyways. Is that USG once they saw the comments on the Southern article, and they saw how I was personally attacked in Breitbart, and how the graduate professional students at SIU on Fox News were trying to push illegals to have benefits at the administration, quote, that they all of a sudden didn't want anything to do with it. So that's a big part of the pivot. Our goal and pastors has always tried to work with USG because as a unified student body, we are a stronger negotiating power. However, given the fact that they're no longer willing to work with us because the way we mean people to yell at us, they're all no longer willing.
And those were their words.
Exactly.
USG.
I fully understand, which is why we took no pause in saying fine, like we'll move forward with that.
Administratively, they left us out or left us hanging. Most of the concerns about the letter from the administration were forwarded on to our office, and USG provided no substantial response to them. Hence the change in language, which is something that, when asked by Susan Ford and Lord Stetler concerning this, my response has been generally, we did the first letter together with USG as a courtesy to USG to represent a unified student body. Any subsequent messaging will come from GPSC alone and will be a little bit cleaner.
And the fact that we now have established numbers to legitimize that our constituency is based upon such a large percentage of international students. That liability alone kind of lets us ignore the fact that USG, and I would even say separate ourselves from the first letter. The motion is good. Second, favor? Thank you guys. You're awesome.
I actually, I was just making sure that I was still driving to Edwardsville on Thursday, because I wasn't. We didn't, that's fine, I will do it, I perfectly.
However, no, it's not.
No, it was altered, like in public, general public, not even like the university, 'cause, like,
The one I have.